Hi, I'm Rosemary. That's Michael. And we are going to introduce ourselves a bit as part of this process, but I thought it was a bit ridiculous when Mike asked us to talk about 6 months with Engaging Networks because we're a tiny program. We've learned a lot for ourselves, but not as lot as all of you have learned, probably working with it for years. And we have 2,000 donors, so we're really, really small. Did we figure out the clicking? Can you do the... Thank you. Thanks very much. So, but Mike said we could come free if we spoke. So here we are. Because one of the things about working for a small organization is you have no money to work with. So this was huge for us. Plus, I met Mike at Build Good last year, and we're very excited to be part of Engaging Networks. Okay, so we are both with the Canadian Civil Liberties Association. Most Canadians don't know about CCLA, but if you say we're the Canadian version of the ACLU, people know who we are. So that is who we are, although ACLU is huge in America, and we are very tiny. So we defend the rights and freedoms of all people in Canada, so we work for all 41 million people in this country, but only 2,000 support our work with a donation. We are a trusted national voice, and we've worked on a lot of really critical human rights issues over the last 60 plus years. I coined the term, it's a tough gig in fundraising with the board at almost every board meeting, just because people don't know the name. When asked to name a civil liberties organization, a human rights or civil liberties organization in Canada, only 3% could name us, even though half of our name is in the question. So that is not a good thing. And people just really don't think about the term. Civil liberties is not a user-friendly term. I think people know civil rights, they know human rights. It's just something that we were saddled with in '64. Next slide. We are small, so we're saying that. We raised just under $2 million last year from 2,363 donors. A third of those are monthly donors, so we have 775 monthly donors. I will say that when I worked at Amnesty International, we had 40,000 monthly donors, just so I know what is a medium-sized program and what is a small program. We only began fundraising. Maria Rio, who was here at the lunchtime and gave us that excellent speech, she was one of our first fundraisers, I think, first professional fundraisers at CCLA at about 6 years ago, I think. And she got the ball rolling on a lot of programs. Michael arrived in May 2022, so almost 4 years ago, and I arrived a few months later. Michael has worked at Operation Smile, the Donkey Sanctuary in Wellspring. I worked at Oxfam, Greenpeace, and Amnesty International. So sometimes I feel like saying to people, we do know fundraising, we're just having trouble doing it here. Like, it's just, it's quite a challenge. So we're very new to CCLA, and we're new to Engaging Networks.
So in terms of our digital reality, like I said, like Rosemary said, we were tiny when I got here in 2022. So when I did our first email platform switch from Constant Contact to MailChimp, I moved only 11,000 names. So that was our entire digital list at that point, and that was 60 years of the organization, probably 10 years on email. So we've grown it a lot. We currently have just under 50,000 in our database. We built this primarily through digital leads with Care2 and Catalyst. So the challenge we have, though, is while we were successful at growing the list, digital donations have not kept pace. So in 2023, we had just under 500 donations for emails, $35,000. Last year, we had 772 for $52,000. So our email list has grown around 400%. It's quadrupled in size, but our income is only up around 50%. And this is despite a lot of effort on our part. So we've mailed these people, we've called these people, we put them through welcome series, we've tried a lot of different things, but I think it's really, we're aware that something wasn't working. Our approaches were quite piecemeal, and our systems that we had in place were kind of holding us back. So before we switched to Engaging Networks, we used MailChimp and Raisin. Basically, so MailChimp would host our landing pages and send out our emails, and Raisin hosted our donation pages. With these two separate systems, our data and reporting was really highly fragmented, so we couldn't segment or target groups properly. Email donors would, what I called, enter the void when they transferred from MailChimp over to Raisin. So once they moved off this MailChimp platform, their data would be on another platform if they went to donate in Raisin. So it's really difficult for us to kind of segment, kind of track results, and then like we have to build out manual spreadsheets, and that's a lot of work. When we're only the 2 fundraisers on the team, so it's a lot of work to kind of build out and track under our old system. So we couldn't really do the segmentation and kind of the stuff we wanted to do. So we couldn't figure out how to further optimize. Targeting with segmentation was extremely difficult because they were in 2 separate systems. And then just beyond that, like our donation forms looked like they were from 2005. They looked very tired. They looked very dated. There wasn't a lot of, they looked kind of not untrustworthy, I would say. We noticed a lot of drop off when using these forms. They didn't look like something you want to donate to. So our process for adopting EN, so we had identified this as an area we wanted to approve and start exploring options all the way back in 2024. We just had to wait till budget kind of aligned with this. Rosemary had previous experience with engaging networks at Amnesty, and we quickly identified it as a preferred platform because of the functionality, because of the segmentation, the analytics. It's also a platform kind of built for advocacy. We're an advocacy organization. So I started conversations with Faizan in 2024 and attended ENC&C, as that was good to see how the system was used. And then when we were finally able to go through with it in spring of last year, we both attended ENCC last year, which we were in the process of migrating to. So it was great timing, and it really boosted our learning. So these conferences have really helped. And again, this one has helped this year as well. So we worked primarily with Sean and Sonia, so I think are here. They and all the other staff we worked with were fantastic, and they provided great support. The onboarding process is extremely well laid out and is organized in Basecamp. It's very clear that they've done this multiple times, which really put us at ease. The EN Academy is actually really helpful, has a lot of great stuff on it. And like their introduction things were really useful for us and useful for me to get to learn how to use it. So it was really helpful getting our team up to speed, including our gift processing colleagues, our finance colleagues, because that was part of the switch as well. So they would have to learn kind of new systems related to finance and gift processing. And overall, the process took us around 8 months for engaging networks to be fully implemented. So we started it around March of last year. We were fully up and running by November of last year. So we delayed some stuff. We took it slowly due to scheduling and workload demands. We're a small team. You could probably do it faster if you wanted to or needed to. It is also, this was basically when our contract with Raisin was ending up too, so we built it a lot around that. So like I said, the process is very methodical, and was a phase-by-phase approach, which we found very helpful. I think it's a very, like this is obviously the donation platform is like really critical, mission critical, so it's something that shouldn't be rushed. We did lengthen the process a lot, but Ian was really flexible in like how long we wanted the process, and we basically took it as long as we could. On the vice of, so we work with Jeff Gignac, who was here at one point. I think he left, but he was also helped us with the data transfer. We anchored the process internally around the transfer of the monthly donors. So Sean and the rest of the EN team emphasized the importance of this, and we understood this was the most risky part of this from a financial perspective, and we devoted a lot of time learning it. So it's really, of the whole process, I would say it's probably the most crucial thing. It's people are most worried about. It's the one thing, I think you only really get one chance to execute it smoothly, or you cause donor issues. So, like for instance, when we were transferring over data, there was times we overwrote data if we didn't get the emails in correctly. We did that a couple times, but this one thing was the one thing we had to do right the first time. Thankfully, it did go right the first time. There was a test kind of donation thing, so Rosemary will get into that. Yeah.
I'm actually going to stand here because you can hear me from anywhere, and this way I can see the slides, because I think I missed a lot on the other ones. Okay, so moving monthly donors is key. So it's a third of our donor base. It's not a third of our income yet, but we have great hopes for our monthly giving. And so we were very concerned about it. I watched the Academy program on moving monthly donors at least twice as part of the prep process, and it gave me the confidence to go ahead. What we were super lucky with is that we were already using Stripe in Raisin, and Stripe was going to be our payment gateway in Engaging Networks. And so if you can use the same payment gateway, it's much easier. It's a tokenized, it's easier for them to move from their tokenized system to the new system. If you have to re-tokenize, that apparently is a bit of a nightmare, so try to avoid that if you can. The test port was really important because our organization was concerned about this, and we did test some, and they went through really well, so that was great. And you need to have access to the back end of Stripe, so we were working with our finance department quite closely on this, which is great. So some quick, is there anyone here who's not yet on Engaging Networks, like we were? Okay, good. So I'm glad. So this is who we're really talking to here, because we were new last year. We hadn't quite started, and so so here's some quick tips from what we learned. So follow what they do for onboarding. I said that thousands of other migrations, but maybe it's hundreds. I don't know exactly how many clients Engaging Networks has, but it felt masterful in the sense that, in other words, they have this process, and this is what you do week 1, and this is what you do week 2. And so it kept us on track. We had kind of a work plan in front of us that we had to keep up with, and we timed out in advance when we would switch the monthly donors, since that was such a critical process, and we had a few months coming, and when people would say, can you guys do something at this time, we'd say, no, that's when we're moving the monthly donors. And so it was really good to have that process and have all that. We got a new finance director during the middle of this process, and I'll be honest, I think that really helped us be more successful. I don't want to diss the other people who left because they might have been tired and burnt out, who knows, but the issue is that we got the help we needed, and it was really important to us to work with finance. Do watch the training modules. They're amazing, and they're easy to watch, and it's a really good learning process. And ask for help. We asked for a lot of help. Sean, if he's in the room, can testify. There's Sean. It's like, okay, Michael, we have to ask Sean. And because it's only Michael and I, the whole fundraising team, and the organization, as we know, doesn't have a lot of experience with fundraising. So we really appreciated Sean's help and Sanya's help, and they were always able to come through. And we talked to some other Engaging Network users as well. And this is where I would like to do just a quick shout out to the memorial for George this morning. I meant to do it at the beginning, I forgot, but to thank Ryan and Engaging Networks for making space for that, because I had worked with George Irish at Amnesty for 20 years, so he was one of the people that we were consulting with. And I last saw George at the Engaging Networks conference last June at another location in Toronto. And so it is nice to know there's all these other users that we could go to and ask for help and advice. So thank you for remembering George. Oh yeah, next slide. So far in, our donation forms look much better, if we do say so ourselves. Thank you very much, Engaging Networks. They are multi-stage, they have an easier option for monthly giving, and they have options for digital wallets, which we couldn't offer before. We have seen a noticeable increase in form completion. So we used to have quite a high abandon rate on our donation forms, and now we're getting a better form completion and better conversion when people go from an email to the donation forms. And that's for both single gifts and monthly donors, so we like that. We ran a monthly donor conversion campaign, which we called 1 in a Million, because we were looking for 40 new monthly donors. We are small, don't forget, and there are 40 million Canadians, so we said be 1 in a Million and join our monthly giving program. And we got exactly 40 monthly donors from a 4-part email series, which shocked us a lot. In the old days, we would have got 16 probably, just based on the success rate we'd had with previous things. So we think the forms look better. We think the integration of the forms to the emails is much better, although we haven't been doing huge email campaigns yet, but that's about to start. Okay, next slide. Our one complaint, and I think it's good to know for those of you who haven't yet migrated, is having email as the unique identifier boggled our minds a couple of times. Like, we made mistakes because of that, because we knew it, and people kept saying to us, this is a shift that you have to make. This is the unique identifier. But one of the things is some donors have 3 or 4 email addresses, and so they're going to end up with 3 or 4 Engaging Networks memberships, and that's just what that is. One of our problems at CCLA as well is that several years ago, some people put in what I'm calling junk email addresses, like CCLA receipt 5 or something, because we would have to mail it out. And there were a few of those in the donor base, which we didn't know because we hadn't put them in there, we weren't aware they were there, so we didn't dedupe properly. So that overrode. So what happens is when an email address comes in that's the same as one over there, it overwrites the record. So it affected one corporate donor's receipt because the lawyer at that firm used it for her personal monthly gift as well as the corporate gift. And so that was something that we figured out we can't do anymore. And also the junk emails overwrote. So it's relatively a small problem. So far, 2 that we know about, but it was carelessness on our part that we hadn't properly deduped that. So that's what we would pass along to new users, is just make sure that every email that goes in is a unique email. Okay, and I'm handing over to Michael after this, but I liked Jordan's pitch this morning for the UNHCR campaign that is still live. And we have 781 monthly donors actually at the moment. And so if any of you are moved to become one of the 19, we need to break the threshold of 800, please feel free to do so. You'll check out our forms. And over to Michael now.
Yeah, so if you want to check our donation pages more, just what we're doing at ccla.org/donate. So learnings from about form design, what I've learned in the 6 months is like form design. I went to conferences, Bill Good last year, emphasizing how much form design does matter. Like it turns out it does matter a lot. So engaging networks offers a lot of flexibility in the forms. So I think Raisin it's a simpler thing initially, like to learn it because it's easier, like the forms are kind of standard. So switching from a thing like Raisin, where these like forms are standard, you're only allowed to change limited things, to like something with EN where you're kind of programming a lot more. It's more of a steeper learning curve in the beginning, but you're not running into these issues of things you can't do with the forms. So that's a lot of things. So I think it's worth it. It's just something to be aware of if you're switching from a simpler platform, I would say, or less sophisticated. ChatGPT, because we couldn't go out, we're small, we have no budget, we couldn't go out and hire a Yibu or HJC to help with our form designs or kind of things. Like when I wanted to get things kind of formatted in a specific way, like specific fonts, or there's on these forms, there's things to hide certain kind of opt-ins and like to change how just like the fonts look. Like, so these simple kind of scripts, like just running it through ChatGPT, if you have a working knowledge basic of HTML, like it's been really helpful for us to be able to do that in-house. And then like the EN support team also has been a great resource. They're really knowledgeable. Like I sometimes send them 2 emails, 3 emails a day about things. They're always quickly to get back to us. So that's coming from an old system where that was an issue of getting support. Like I think that's really helped us because we're building this out and they are so responsive. So thank you for that. So what our next steps are engaging networks? So we're currently building out a more comprehensive welcome series. So we want to do welcome videos, surveys, get them to take actions like signing petitions. Also with the World Animal Protection example of the thank you forms, I think we're going to take that as well, right when they sign a petition. So things like that.
That was a great idea.
It's a great idea. And we're also, so face-to-face has been our probably best channel so far. So we're building out a tool with Yibu currently to, we move, because they're taken in through public outreach and these folders, we have to move them through the EN API. So we're building that tool to move them seamlessly into our database so they can be put through welcome series. So before our face-to-face campaign starts in June, we'll have that tool up and running, which will give them these new face-to-face donors. They won't notice, they'll be put in a welcome series automatically. It really helps our processing with our data processor, and as we ramp up face-to-face, that's really important. We also, there's just a lot more data, so I'm looking into ways like how do we further segment with this data we have now. That's going to be like a long-term process, but what can we do now to use this new data to do things like improve retention? Like how do we get more people from the 49,000 people to actually donate? So just learning slowly kind of with the data we have, what can we do to do things better is something we do. And what's not on here, but also recently launched, like the smart forms will solve a lot of issues for us. So we're not gonna be the first ones on it, no offense, we'll wait. But I think in this summer, we wanna roll out things like better tribute pages. There's some flows I want to improve with like the donation forms, and smart forms will kind of do that automatically, so I don't have to go like program our old existing forms. So we're excited for that to launch too. Yeah.
And that's it. Thank you for listening.
I mean, I often say that as I'm meeting folks out in the field who are not on engaging networks, like one of the first things that I usually say is like, we're not actually a platform for everybody. And it often does take a real dedication to wanting to build out a digital program that looks meaningfully different from what a lot of folks have been doing for a long time. And some folks get an agency partner involved, and that takes a lot of load off. But what you two have done, it's an incredibly impressive case study unto itself, and I appreciate the kind words. Sean, appreciate the work that you did, but yeah, I think if anyone, you two kind of are testaments to the fact that I think more people could probably do this if two people kind of going through it all on their own could do it. So huge congrats to both of you. Really awesome to see and exciting to see what's to come. Some questions from the crowd. Did you have any token loss at all during the monthly donor transfer?
So we were told to expect 10%, which I'm terrified me and Rosemary, because it would only been 75 donors, but that's a big thing for us, for our organization. We did have some. It was less than 1%.
Wow.
It was related to.
Yeah,
It's 5
I think
donors.
it was
Yeah.
5 donors.
Okay.
So
5 donors.
Related to an issue around them having multiple emails. So we couldn't, it's kind of unavoidable. We did try and get in contact with them afterwards, but we were overall happy with the process, and I think it was pretty straightforward. It wasn't with the stripe to stripe move, I wouldn't say it was super difficult. Jeff helped us a lot too as well, but we definitely, yeah, we were happy with the less than 1%.
Yeah, five donors, 1%. That's fantastic. What kind of communication strategy did you have with your monthly donors about the switch from your old system to engaging networks, if any?
Okay, I can start with that, and if you want to add. So we were concerned that despite having tested it and that everything was going to be fine, that there would be some disruptions. And so we debated sending all the donors a message. I think in the end we didn't send a message. It just went seamlessly through. Where we did have to do communications was around the tax receipts. So we had been under the impression, which is probably our fault because we're being too optimistic, that we would be able to issue all the full year 12 gift receipts for the donors from the new system. And it turned out that that was actually way more complicated than we thought it was going to be, and we didn't have money to pay for lots of people to help us figure out how to do that. So what we did is we had Raisin issue the receipts from January to August, and we had Engaging Networks issue the receipts from September to December. I think we got 3 donor inquiries about that, why they were getting 2 receipts, which is not a lot. And when we explained that we'd moved to a new system, so we did send a message to all of them about that. You'll be getting 2 receipts. Here's why we moved to a new platform, blah, blah, blah. And this is the last time, like next year, you'll get 1 receipt again as you have in the post. So it passed. We only got 3 comments, and one donor, when I explained it to him, he said, oh, that makes total sense. Everyone needs to upgrade their systems. So I think that went more smoothly than we thought. But we had thought about having a communications plan, and in the end, the Smooth itself was so switched, we didn't have to do it. We just had to do it around the tax receipts. So.
We'll tag team on this microphone. For your monthly conversation campaign or conversion campaign, were there the folks who became monthly donors? I'm just reading this question. Were they existing one-time donors primarily, or subscribers who had never donated before?
They were both, but primarily they were existing one-time donors.
Okay. And have you had any issues with donors providing new biographical data overwriting existing data when there's an email address match? And if so, how did you work around that?
Yeah, so as Rosemary mentioned, we did have one example. We do have these kind of, I guess they're junk emails in our old system. Like, we don't really want to be passing data from our old, our database of record into EN. Like, it's not really best practice for these reasons like this, but sometimes it's just unavoidable. We're trying to move away from building that out so we don't have to do that. But yeah, like how we get around it internally is because we used to because this is how we process mailings, or mail-in donations through this system. We don't have a separate system to process direct mail. So we used to issue them to receipts at ccla.org, but since we can't use the same email twice, it'll be overwritten. We just like put first name, last name, .cclareceipt.org, and then we have a process with the data processors to handle that. So it's not a big deal for us, I would say, to work around. It's just something we have to be aware of.
Sorry, yes. And if the question is, has a new donor, since we've gone to EN, caused us to do the overwriting? It wouldn't be. If it's the same email and it's the same donor, it's going to be in the same record. So it's just, so we haven't encountered it yet. But again, 6 months with engaging networks, not 6 years.
Yeah, and you also have a bit of a unique situation where you're not on like what I'd consider more of an enterprise database of record. Like you're not on Razor's Edge, you're not on Salesforce or BBCRM. You're, if I'm correct, you're running kind of unintegrated with Little Green Light. Is that right? Okay.
Yeah, so it's Little Green Light, which is, it's a great little database, but it's not, and actually, it's good. I found it more user-friendly than Razor's Edge, to be honest, but it doesn't have that same kind of integration back and forth, and that's a challenge for us. I think like once we're more on EN, there's kind of things like half of our monthly donors, for instance, still live on this Little Green Lights processing system, which is outdated. Like we want to move those onto EN and not have to go back and forth between the two databases as much, because that's where the issues kind of come up for us. Is we just don't know. Like there's a lot of people in the database 10 years ago. We don't know what they were doing. If we're moving data from 10 years ago, we could run into these kind of issues. So that's where they kind of pop up. So we just want to avoid that.
Yeah, it sounds like you've done a remarkable job. We're right at time. There's a few more questions. I would say feel free to approach Rosemary and Michael. Super resourceful and just incredible work that you've done. Thank you so much for telling your story. We appreciate having you both present. And maybe we got to get you back next year for 18 months afterward. Appreciate it.